Welcome to Click AI Radio, where you'll learn the secrets to transforming your small to medium business. Grant has been helping businesses transform using technology for over 30 years. Advanced technologies like artificial intelligence have been available only to large companies and advanced technical teams. Grant will discuss how you can use to leverage AI and other technologies to grow your small to medium business. As a gift, Grant is offering his ebook, AI for Sales Growth, at clickairadio.com. Now, here's your host and biz tech geek, Grant Larson.
Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Grant. Thanks for joining another episode of Click AI Radio. All right, so on topic today, I wanted to spend some time discussing what are the things that we do as a small to medium business owner to prepare our businesses for AI. What are the steps that we go through in order to accomplish that? I remembered one of the very first startup companies I was involved with out of college. We had zero control over our data. We in fact, we didn't even know what data we had, and that was really the biggest problem, right? We didn't know what information was available to us, let alone even if we knew what the information or the data that we did have, we wouldn't know how to have extracted any value out of that. So the fact of the matter is, you know this, I know this as a business owner, over time we collect a lot of data from our businesses, right? In fact, over time it actually starts to look a bit like a mountain, right? So you get this mountain, there you go, that's quite the mountain, right? You get this mountain of data that's collected over time, and some of that information represents or describes the money that we're receiving. Some describes money that we're spending. The money's coming in, it's going out. Lots of times we don't really break that down, especially as a small to medium business owner. We're so busy just turning the crank, we don't really understand what might all be inside there. Now, the thing that's important to note is that when we have that data, there's actually a lot of secrets and insights that are in the data, all right? And so deep inside of all of this information that's down here that we've been collecting, down inside of there is some insights that are just looking to be harvested, right? Just looking to be pulled out. Now, with the things that are going on with COVID and the challenges that are happening to our small to medium businesses throughout the country, it becomes even more incumbent or necessary for us to be wise with the use of what resources we already have available to us. So this isn't even about going off and finding someone else's stuff. This is looking at what we already have, what's available to us, and that we have rights to it, and then using that to extract some analytics, some insights, some predictions even, and some next steps. And that's an important piece, that those insights tend to be broken into a couple categories. There's one category, as I write here on my whiteboard, that's called patterns, right? And that's a very analytics sort of view. It's where the artificial intelligence looks at the data, this mountain of data that you have, and it says, oh, here are some patterns that you may not have been able to see before. And that becomes important, right? That we can't always see it as a human, and so the AI helps us to discover those things. That's the first part. The second part of the mountain over here is what we would call predictions, okay? And so with the predictions, it looks at the patterns and it says, what are the probabilities based on different mathematical and other models that something could happen in the future? And so we'd want to be able to understand that view as well. So help us discover, looking backwards, what our patterns are. Some of them are empirical, and us as humans, we already know what they are. In fact, sometimes when you look at what the AI produces, you go, yeah, I already knew that. And other times you look at it and you go, oh, you're kidding. I didn't realize that there's that connection or correlation that was established over time. And so the patterns are critical because that helps us to even understand how we can adjust our behavior moving forward. But so are the predictions, right? And the predictions come with some level of probability, right? Which is, well, the accuracy level or the probability level of this is 80%, right? Or whatever it might be. And so the key is to be able to look at both of those and then ask yourself, therefore what, right? What am I going to do differently as a business owner with this? Now, we find that the companies that, of course, practice this, that are in the habit of leveraging the information, the insights, the patterns and predictions out of their data, they tend to use their resources more effectively. And especially today where, again, as I'd mentioned, things are even tighter. It's harder to, of course, get access to everything that we need. But it becomes very beneficial for us as an organization to use our resources more efficiently and effectively. And so AI helps us to do that. One of the other benefits is it helps us to grow the business and to know, oh, moving forward, let me put more emphasis in this area and less emphasis in another area. And so it gives us the opportunity to of course, grow. Now, sometimes these data insights that comes from AI, we might refer to those as oil. I know you've probably heard the phrase, data is the new oil. Where that data comes from, sometimes it comes from human behavior, sometimes it comes from systems behaviors, sometimes it comes from something in the environment outside of our control. Wherever it comes from, whatever the source of that is, it translates into some form of information or data on our computers. And therein lies the opportunity to harvest this oil. And this oil, again, is a set of these insights, these predictions and these patterns that are available to us. Now, when we're thinking about how do I get started with this, there's one thing when you think about AI, it's look at it from the perspective of, well, I'm just going to go in it open-minded. And that's certainly fine because sometimes we don't really know what question to ask. It's also helpful, though, to think about specific questions because whether it's you that's doing the artificial intelligence preparation or it's someone else, having an idea of what the kind of questions are that you're looking for, that guides some of the predictive direction and behavior, right? In other words, you end up focusing in certain areas saying, well, if I was trying to predict how many refunds that I might get based on the patterns from the past, right? What does that look like? Obviously, you do some things in the artificial intelligence work to make that happen. So there's a couple things on this. There's business owners and entrepreneurs and marketers and so forth, right? They do this kind of work. In fact, I've been working with multiple companies many companies. Multiple doesn't sound as much. With many companies over the years that are preparing their data and themselves to take advantage of artificial intelligence. But there's a couple things that I found on this. If you're going to go do this yourself, right? If you're going to get yourself organized, you need, of course, prepare those business questions like I talked about. That's number one. Number two, got to get control of that data. And lots of times organizations will hire artificial intelligence teams, right? A development team, right, that focuses on artificial intelligence. And that's pretty pricey when it comes down to it. And then number three, then you implement that artificial intelligence solution to find your oil, right? What's the oil? And then you look at, what came out of it. What does that oil tell you? What are your patterns and predictions? And then you look at making adjustments to your business, right? Now, what are the steps to do that? So let's say you're going to go hire your own team. That can be really pricey, right? It can be painful and slow. You need data engineers. You need a data scientist. You need a business analyst generally to help tie it into the business without connecting it to the business. This is all an academic data analyst, activity. Don't do that, right? The real key is to actually tie it to what the business objective and goal is, and then focus all of the energy and efforts that way. Nevertheless, it's really expensive to hire those people as employees, right? And so that's one of the challenges. The other is when you do bring on your own team, obviously it takes some time to build that team up, of course. And so that could be slow as well. So while it takes months to get the team on board, Well, in today's business cycle, months are critical because, heck, just a few months ago, we were in a very different world, right? Before COVID. Now here we are a few months later, and wow, wouldn't it be useful if we could have continuous updates of our data and the analytics and the insights from that, and therefore make pivots and adjustments as a business? And so having an ongoing artificial intelligence service or activity that keeps you moving forward on a recurring basis, that's actually one of the most efficient and effective ways to serve your business moving forward. Now, let's say that you did have your own team do it, then you're going to do at least these 5 or 6 steps, right? I'd already mentioned determine your business questions, right? So what are my business questions? Number 1. And number 2, you got to go in here. So this is number 2. Go in and clean up your data. And then number 3, you need to pick some sort of AI algorithms, right? And of course, the data scientists and such know that. I'll throw out a few just to be nerdy. It could be a random forest, right? It could be some linear regression, right? And so forth. You end up looking at the nature of the problem to be solved, and you got to pick the right set of AI algorithms. So that's another step. Whew, The next one is you execute those on that data. Not once, but lots of times. Hundreds, thousands of times actually. Running lots of tests. And you're building up these cases, eventually getting to a point where you start to see the patterns and the predictions. You begin to identify them, but then that leads to the next step, which is now you've got a lot of these predictions and patterns. What are the most relevant and probable and beneficial to the business? And what can we even go do as a business, right? Some of them may be rather esoteric, and you're like, well, only do this if it's Tuesday in Belgium. Well, what good is that, right? So it takes some augmented intelligence with your artificial intelligence. And that's the way to use AI. It's not just to, rely on it blindly, right? But rather to leverage the human cognitive capabilities with it as well. And so that leads to the last step, which is, you go make your timely adjustments to your business. In the end, that's all a lot of steps. And generally, the small to medium business owner doesn't have either the skill set or the resources or the time to do that. So one of the things that would strongly encourage is you look for an organization that can help you with that as a small to medium business owner. And so that would be one of the key takeaways from this. Know your business questions, figure that out, take a quick look at just what do I know about my data and what's the state of it. But then identify a strong organization that can take all of those complex activities around, identifying and cleaning the data, and of course getting the right AI algorithms and so forth, right? All of that grungy stuff that I described, they take care of those things. And what you get back then is something that, of course, helps you to move forward in your business. In the next few episodes, I will be bringing on some people, some organizations, which I've done this with. And we'll hear some of their experiences, lessons learned, the good, the bad, and the ugly of this. What would be a mistake would be to not do anything. It's even more critical as a small to medium business owner to leverage what we have available to us, our resources, the data, the things that are available to us, and figure out how on an ongoing basis we can continue to improve how we serve our customers. And without leveraging or taking advantage of some of the technology available today, it actually ends up putting us behind the competition. We all know the big companies do this, right? You got the Facebooks and the Googles and the Netflixes and so forth. They've learned the secret of how do I take advantage and leverage, right, the data that's available to me so that it can guide where we go as a business. Well, it's time to do that now as a small to medium business owner. So, hey, thanks again for joining, and until next time, go get the oil out of your data.
Thank you for joining Grant on Click AI Radio. Don't forget to subscribe and leave feedback. And remember to download your free ebook. Visit clickairadio.com now.